dad's dream to talk about his favorite team with the son of digging the stats. Come and join us, nerding on the Dbacks.
Hello, welcome to Nerding on the Dbacks, the best
And only
father-son baseball show.
in America.
Yep, not in Indonesia. They have a bunch of baseball fanatic there.
They might. They also may not know what baseball is at all.
Yeah, they probably play cricket.
They almost certainly do play cricket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pulled that one right out of the air.
Yeah, well played. Well played. Like a good cricket match.
Yep.
Okay, so
I'm Son.
Yeah.
And this is
AKA
my
Phoenix.
AKA Phoenix, and this is my colleague / co-host because I'm the real host.
Yeah. Ooh, I think we're both co-hosts, but you're the hostess with the mostest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the co-hostess with the mostest. Yeah, I'm Dad, a.k.a. Chris, and thank you for joining us. Please like, comment, subscribe, and leave us a review if you're on Spotify or listening to this on any sort of podcast. And also, channel you're in a kindergartner in.
Share.
That's right. Share.
Last time I tried to say channel you're in a kindergartner and I messed it up, so we had to start up the whole intro again. So
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you're joining us for the first time, rather than discuss individual games or even series, we kind of take the time to look at the big picture of what's going on in the season and how the D-backs are trending and what kind of the predictive performance is and where we think they're going to go. We focus more on performance than production because production can vacillate pretty randomly, whereas performance is pretty consistent. It's far more stable. And so we want to look at that. And so on a personal note, Phoenix, we had something pretty cool happen this weekend.
Yep.
You had
I got a big
football game?
Yep, a big football game, and I got.
That's right. Oh, you should have brought the ring to show on camera. Yeah.
Yeah, but I got a football ring. It's actual ring, and yeah, we won the championship.
So heavy.
Yeah, it's also pretty big.
Yeah.
And
I think you could swing that on the end of a rope and crush a man's skull.
Oh wow.
Or at least a chipmunk skull. All right, that's too much.
All right.
Yeah.
And the people who we faced against were not very happy that they lost, and stuff happened.
Funny. Yeah. So, and then after the game, after you guys won the championship, we went and had a pool party.
Yep, and we went scuba diving.
Scuba diving?
Yeah, that's pretty much a pool.
Okay. And we had a lot of sun time, and we all got sunburned.
Yeah,
Even you got sunburned, Phoenix.
I don't get sunburned.
You haven't been sunburned in years. That's incredible that you got a sunburn.
I think the last time I got a sunburn when I was 7.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I got it on my face and my eyebrows.
And we had another big thing. Everyone watching this or listening to this, you are listening to a graduate of the 6th grade.
So that's what we pulled out, huh?
Yeah. He's done with elementary school, folks. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Yeah. Speech.
Thank you to my elementary school and all my teachers in the past year. It was pretty hard for me to go, and I'll see you all next year.
Peace.
Yep, and that's our pod. We'll see you next year.
So proud of you, buddy. I mean, I knew you were going to do it, but I'm still proud.
You had a little voice crack there. I don't know if you noticed that.
So, all right. Now that we got all the mushy stuff out of the way,
you're
I'm no longer co-hosting with an elementary student.
Yeah, it was a big day.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of my
So obviously,
shirt.
if you're watching the video, you can see this. We'll put a picture of this up on the screen. But tell what's your shorts. Your shirt says Corbin.
So I have a friend in my school named Corbin, and he, I think he's like Corbin Hunter. So
Okay.
yeah, shout out to Corbin, I guess.
Yeah, Corbin.
I don't think he watches the show, but yeah, it's not for Dbacks purposes, but it's
I thought it was actually when I saw that. All right. Well, that's cool.
No, but I mean it could be.
Yeah, it could be. It's a good name.
Heard a lot of people.
Yeah, you got
sign
lots
my
of
shirt.
names. That's awesome. Everybody signed that shirt. What
Yeah.
a great day.
I everybody came up to me and said put Nerdy on the Dbacks on there, so that was kind of fun.
Oh yeah, you signed Nerding on the D-backs on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, these fifth graders came up to me and they're like, sign my yearbook, because we all had yearbooks, and they said write Nerding on the Dbacks on there. So
That's awesome.
yeah, that was
Very cool.
That was a fun part.
Yeah, Phoenix is definitely the reason that this show is as popular as it is.
I did have a commercial that I had to make for my whole class.
That's right.
If you haven't seen that, just go watch.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, you know who else had a good week? The D-backs.
Oh.
Yeah. Part of the reason that we've had a quite a longer than normal layoff is Limerick got pretty sick.
Yes, and we're going to have a longer layoff when we go to Mexico.
That's right. Yeah, we're gonna be go soaking up some sun in Cabo here next week. So you may not be hearing from us until June again. That's not true. We're gonna do one more predictions pod here before we leave.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of time, but then we've got summer, and that means with you home and not having nearly as much to do, we can record a little bit more frequently.
Yep.
More consistently. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So let's talk about the D-backs since we had our last recap pod, if you will, an analysis pod. We discussed how they were more or less kind of treading water, and they've done the same for the past 9 games, but in kind of up and down fashion, with the most important being the most recent series win. But they played the Reds, and as we discussed last week, the Reds were on just a terrible slide when we played them. And so we were pretty lucky to play them when we did and took advantage of it, winning 2 out of 3 against them. And then they played the Tigers. And I mean, WTF happened? I don't know.
What the flip happened?
That's right. What the flip? I wouldn't be surprised if the most runs the Tigers have scored in any 3-game stretch all season came in that 3 games against the Diamondbacks. It was just bizarro. They played their pitching and defense, just everything just fell apart. And they barely got any offense, but they did escape with 1 win Sunday afternoon. And then the most concerning part of that whole thing, though, was Gallen and Monty starts. And not to say that it was their fault per se that they lost those games. The bullpen just completely collapsed, and we're gonna really spend a lot more time on that bullpen at the D-backs. But it was pretty ugly. And then they played the Dodgers and on the road, and they won.
Whoop whoop.
Woo! What a fun! I mean, especially last night's game, 6-0. That was a fun one to watch. They tore them apart, and Ryne Nelson finally had some regression to the predictive stats that we have been waiting. He has just been getting BABIP'd to death by soft and medium contact. And do you remember what BABIP means?
No, I don't.
Yeah, so
would you
BABIP,
explain that?
Yeah, so BABIP is batting average on balls in play. So basically, it's just Ryne Nelson. And I've seen this happen to so many pitchers in both directions. But Ryne Nelson, basically, we call it being BABIP to death, and that is where a lot more hits, balls in play, land for hits than should, based on the quality of contact. Just a lot of slow bleeders through the infield, soft liners to a degree, just dying quails that just bloopers that just barely get over the infield's head. They're hit 40 feet in the air, but they just go over the infield's head and they land in front of the outfield. Like, they're terribly hit balls, but they land sometimes for doubles. And he was just getting BABIP'd to death. And that finally reversed a little bit. He still gave up a lot of hits, but they were pretty much hard contact, but he didn't allow any runs in 5 innings against the Dodgers. And that's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Had a lot of bend, but not break, you could say. But more, I would just say that the expected regression, just all of the bad luck that Ryne Nelson had been having, finally kind of equaled itself out a little bit. He actually dropped his ERA a full run last night, and that's how crazy his season has been. He still has a FIP that is more than 2 runs lower. His FIP and XFIP, both FIP and XFIP, are 2 runs lower than his ERA.
What does XFIP and FIP mean?
So FIP is fielding independent pitching. It's basically if you take the defense out of the equation, the 3 things that the pitcher can control for, that we know the pitcher controls for the most part, is guys hitting home runs, guys walking guys, and striking out guys. Those are the 3 things that the pitcher can completely control for. If a ball is hit into play, that means the defense comes into play, and good or bad defense can affect that, or just quality of contact. And so Ryne Nelson still had plenty of hard contact given up.
I don't know about you, but I'm sweating. Holy crap.
It's a little warm in here. Still had a little more hard contact than you like to see, but it wasn't so bad. And so, he's probably been coming into the game. Predictive indicators said he's probably more like a 4.5 ERA pitcher, and he had a 7 ERA coming into that game. It's down to 6 now. His predictive ERA actually came down under 4 now. He's right at about 4. So he's still about 2 runs lower than his predictive stats say. He's about 2 runs lower, should be 2 runs lower in ERA than he is. So that's good to see. And I think he'll probably continue trending in that direction. He's definitely pitched so much better this season than he did for any stretch of ball last season. And I'm not saying that Ryne Nelson's some world beater. I don't think he's anything more than a 5th starter right now, maybe a 4th starter. Like, his ceiling looks like it's probably a 4th starter. But even so, that's got value to it. And so I'm glad he's on the team. I hope they keep him on the active roster and don't get lost in the death by 1,000 blue pits, because that's not really how you give up runs on a consistent basis. That's so random. So that's it. And to pass it along now, to recap the week that just was a little bit, or I guess 9 games, I'm going to pass it over to Phoenix. Phoenix, give us your who's hot and who's not.
Woo! All right, I'll start off with who's hot.
Yeah.
I'll start off with the good news. So who's hot? Zach Gallen, doing amazing. He had 12 innings pitched, 0.2 if we want to.
12.2 innings pitched.
12.2 innings pitched.
Couple starts.
With 5 runs, and they're all earned. He struck out 14 guys and walked 2. And he got 1 home run hit off of him.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, I think 14 strikeouts is crazy.
14 strikeouts in 12 innings is really, really good for any starting pitcher. That is a fantastic week. The 5 earned runs, a little higher than you'd like to see, but not terribly so.
Yep. All right, so for our relievers, I got Logan Allen as my who's hot guy. He had 5.2 innings pitched, 0 runs, so none of them are earned because there's none of them. He had 6 strikeouts. He walked none and didn't give up a home run.
Yeah, that's some good relief pitching right there. You need that in those games. Even if they don't all come in high leverage, it's important to have him at least come in, stop the bleeding, and give the offense a chance sometimes to make a run back into the game, even if they don't, which they didn't in the games that he pitched. At least he's doing his job.
What games did he pitch in?
Good question. I did not pull up his game log, but he, Logan Allen's usage because of being the long reliever out of the bullpen, for the most part, he's often going to be used in games where the team is behind. And so if they're behind by typically 2 runs or more, you're going to see Logan Allen coming in and pitching two to 3 innings at a time. And as long as he can keep that game close, all it takes is just a bloop and a blast to get the D-backs right back into the game at that point. So he's important. It's important that he holds on to those leads. He certainly does better in long relief. He's been used, I think Torrey used him once this season in a kind of a 1-out situation. Like you just need one out against a lefty. And it's not really where he's most effective. He's effective against lefties, but he's kind of, for being a left-handed pitcher, he's kind of equally effective versus both sides of the plate, and makes for a better long relief. He's another guy kind of similar to what I talked about with Bryce Jarvis, that I think if you gave him an off season, Logan Allen, that is, to prep to be a relief pitcher,
Yeah.
he'd probably come back and be pretty good as a 1-inning reliever instead of a multi-inning long reliever. But this is the situation we're in right now, and I'm very happy he's part of the team. He has been much, much, much better than I expected him to be coming into the season.
All right, let's move on to our hitters. And I got Jock Peterson.
Wow.
Peterson.
It's not a bad. It's a nice job rolling those R's. I didn't know you could do that.
I've always been able to do that.
That's awesome.
Peterson. He's a 1-dotter in OPS.
Yeah.
With 29 plate appearances, 2 doubles with 0 triples. And I want to talk about a guy who had a lot of triples after the hitters. He's one of my honorable mentions. And Jock hit 2 home runs and walked once with 2 runs and 8 RBIs he had. He stole 15 stolen bases, obviously, because he's just like that.
What?
Yeah, he can totally steal a base.
15 stolen bases, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
That's what it says.
Uh-huh.
But on Fangraphs it says 0.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was that on like your OOTP? Do you know what OOTP is? It stands for Out of the Park Baseball.
Uh-huh.
OOTP. It's a simulation game. Is that how many stolen bases Jock has for you on the season so far in that game? But
Well, no, but all right. Now we got Kevin Newman. He also won 1-dot. 1-dot it is. He had 38 plate appearances, 5 doubles with 0 triples, 0 home runs, and 4 walks, which is pretty mad. And then 7 runs, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then 3 RBIs. And he stole a base once, and that is true because I found that on Fangraphs.
And that's true. Yeah, Newman has been absolutely incredible. Like, he is arguably, like, him and Ketel Marte and Christian Walker and Jock Peterson have probably been the best hitters in this lineup for like the past month now, or like the month of May. And he actually might be out hitting Christian Walker in the month of May. He has been just unreal. It's been so cool that he has hit so well.
And then for my honorable mention, it's Rookie of the Year last year, Corbin Carroll. Now, I was gonna put him on the cold list, but then I got to the triples part, and he had 3 triples, and I was just like, I don't know if I could put him on there. That 3 triples in like 2 weeks, I think I put, is really, really, really crazy.
He's actually, over his past 5 games, he's put together like a 788 OPS. And part of the reason is all those triples, but
Yeah, I think I made a prediction at in the off season that he'll get I think 11 or 10 triples.
10 triples,
so
I think it was.
He's on his way.
Yeah.
Keep getting triples, nothing else.
Nothing else. We'll take triples all day.
Yeah.
He has had a nice stretch in these last 5 games against the Tigers and Dodgers, and I'm hoping he can keep this up because it would be so wicked good for this team to, if he's finally getting adjusted to this new swing of his. Like I said, it was going to take about a month or so for him to do this at minimum, and we're kind of hitting the 1 month point since he talked about needing to change his swing. And I think we're starting to see him come out of it. He certainly looked better in the Dodgers series. He was swinging with a little higher attack angle than he had been previously, and even in the month of May. And so I'm cautiously optimistic, maybe even pessimistically optimistic, which is a funny thing to say.
Wow.
Yeah. So, chew on that for a bit. All right. So let's move to the next part of this exercise. And what do we do?
Exercise? It's our hot or ice babies.
That's right.
Got that wrong.
Ice baby. Yeah. All right. So who's not so hot?
Well, the guys who just are very ugly, are not very hot, is Slade Ciccone. He had a 5.2 innings pitched, 6 runs, all earned, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 1 home run.
Yeah. Slade actually got sent down yesterday to AAA. So he is no longer on the active roster. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. There's a good chance we're going to see him again in the not too distant future. But for the time being, we'll talk. Like I said, we'll talk about that. Let's get on to our sad face relief pitcher.
Yeah, it's the gink and the stink.
Oh,
because he's
stinky.
He's stinking right now.
Yeah, he is.
He had 3 innings pitched, 4 runs, all earned, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 0 home runs.
Yeah, he still had, a strikeout an inning and just 1 walk, no home runs. I am going to say he's kind of had. Unfortunately, this is happening with a lot of Dbacks pitchers, so I don't know why, but they're all kind of giving up a lot of hits, more hits than they should at the moment. And so hopefully this corrects itself. Again, I want to talk a little bit. We're just going to spend a lot of time talking about pitching here after we get through talking about our recent performers. But because the bigger picture on pitching is concerning for the rest of the season. Yeah, so go ahead.
All right, so for our ice hitters, we got
I like that.
We got Gino, Eugenio, Gino.
Yeah, I think is that 3 weeks in a row he's been on this list?
I think so. His OPS is .471, so not a 1-dotter, or else he would not be on the who's not list. He had 38 plate appearances, 2 doubles, 0 triples, 0 home runs, walked twice, 2 runs, and 2 RBIs, 0 stolen bases. Yeah,
he's coming up with hits in good situations, but the dude. So when if you recall a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned I was really excited to get the new swing information from. They were going to release swing metrics, not just batted ball metrics, but swing metrics on Baseball Savant.
Yeah.
And they did. And Eugenio Suarez is one of the more, I'm not going to say one of the most concerning by any means, but he has swing metrics that don't look like he's going to have a real opportunity. He doesn't look like he's really going to turn this around with the way his swing metrics look. He has pretty average swing speed, so he swings the bat at kind of the average MLB speed, right? At the point of contact, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You'd think a power hitter typically is probably going to swing harder than the average person, so that it's that low is concerning. And the other half of it, but the more concerning part is he's got average swing speed with one of the longest swings, so it takes him a really long time to get to contact. So there's the really good power hitters. They have some of the fastest bat speeds out there, right? Guys like Giancarlo Stanton and Byron Buxton and Aaron Judge, and these guys have really, really fast, like they're in the top 5, right, for swing speed, for bat speed, but they also have really long swings at the same time, which is not a big deal if you're swinging super hard. You can have a long swing. So Eugenio Suarez, he has a swing length that is longer, like an Aaron Judge or a Byron Buxton, but it is not nearly as fast as those guys, and that's a really bad combination. Where the one thing that we found, going back to Corbin Carroll, is Corbin Carroll has I think he was in the top 10 for swing speed, which is crazy, like in all of Major League Baseball, and he was also in like the top 20 for top 10 or top 20 for short swing, for swing length. So he has a really short, really hard swing. The other guy on that list with a really short, really hard swing, there are 2 others that show up: Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto, who are just like outrageously good hitters. And basically, it just all comes back to that attack angle that Carroll is swinging his bat through the zone on is so flat. If he can just get that bat going back elevated, my goodness, I mean, he could become that monster real easy. But he's got to get that swing path trained back to attacking up at the ball as it comes in. So sorry to steal your spotlight. Take it away. Take it back. I'm a little concerned with Gino.
Yeah, for another ice hitter, we got Blaze Alexander. His OPS is .308, 308. 13 plate appearances, 0 doubles, 0 triples, 0 home runs, 0 walks, 0 runs. He does have 3 RBIs, though. Hasn't stolen a base.
Yeah, he takes good at bats. His bat has certainly cooled off since the start of the season. 13 plate appearances is probably a little on the light side to be putting him in the cold category, but I understand why you did it. I think it's just to demonstrate and kind of give us the the chance to talk about how Blaze takes good at bats, but his swing, it looks like the league made the adjustment to him, and now he needs to figure out how to make the adjustment back. And There's a lot of hitters to make that adjustment back. There's nothing wrong with that. To make that adjustment back, he's probably going to have to go back to AAA and work on that weakness, whatever they found, so that he can put up those numbers that he was putting up early in the season. He still takes good at bats. It just seems they kind of found a hole in his swing to exploit, and hopefully he can patch that hole up with some time at AAA. So it's a really good chance when Perdomo comes back, whenever that is, that Blaze is the one who goes down, almost certainly. Yeah, so
all right, awesome.
Good job, Phoenix. I love it. So let's talk about that bullpen. So these are all those concerning signs from earlier in the season that we discussed, such as the K rate being pretty low despite their ERA hanging in there, and their walk rate being pretty low despite them not giving up a lot of runs. Well, that completely crashed through the roof. And took the ERA down with it. So because they got off to a decent start as ERA is concerned, they're only 24th in ERA, but they are 28th in strikeout rate. This is just the bullpen. 28th in strikeout rate, 21st in walk rate, 28th in K rate minus walk rate, which is a really cool stat to see just how effective a pitcher or a pitching staff is being at limiting runners on balls not in play. And then they're 26th in whip, which is an old school stat. That's right.
Dun, 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 dun.
Whip stands for walks and hits per inning pitched.
Oh.
Whip. So they're 26th in whip. They're 29th at a Fangraphs stat called meltdowns. And meltdowns is where you have I wish I could remember this. It's a
hot streak and you just lose it.
It's where you give up. So have you ever heard of win percentage added? I don't think we've ever talked about this. WPA. So they're 29th in WPA as well.
Does WPA mean wins per average?
Wins percentage added.
Oh, so close.
So win
What does it
percentage
mean?
added is when let's say you come into a ball game, right? You're a relief pitcher. You're coming in the 8th inning, and there are 2 outs, or you're not coming in, but you're pitching in the 8th inning. There are 2 outs. Your team is up by 1 run, right?
Well, now when I come out,
and you give up a home run. How much that one home run, a solo home run, how much that one solo home run impacts the game is pretty big, right? You no longer have a 1-run lead. It's tied now going into the 9th inning. And so that would be considered a meltdown because you are giving up. You just went from like a 58% chance to win that ball game to like a 52% chance to win that ball game. That means that you just shifted the percent of win rate by about 5%. And that's a lot. So that's a meltdown. Versus if you're pitching in the 8th inning of a 6-run ball game, say you're up by 6 runs and you come in and you're pitching in the 8th inning, you got 2 outs, you give up a solo home run. Now you have a 5-run lead. That one home run barely shifted at all your chances of winning that baseball game. And so that's what that's referencing is just, it means that they have given up a lot. The bullpen has come in and lost a lot of leads, basically, and or let close games get away from them. They're 23rd in strand rate, which means strand rate is when you're coming into the game as a reliever. So sometimes your pitcher comes in, or your starting pitcher comes out in, say, the 6th inning. He's got 2 runners on base. You're coming in as the reliever with a runner on say 2nd and 3rd and 2 outs, right? And and Torrey's going to the bullpen. He's pulling Gallen out. He's calling in whoever, Mantiply, Ginkel, Jarvis, whoever it is. And when that guy comes in the 6th inning, he's giving up, rather than stranding those runners at 2nd and 3rd, he's letting one or both of them cross at far too high of a rate. And so they are just not stranding runners on. Their hard hit rate, their barrel rate are both in the bottom 5. Nothing looks good as a unit for these guys at all. Their home run rate, or their home run per 9, is actually in the middle of the pack. That's the one place that they're not doing terrible as a unit, is they're not giving up a lot of home runs. That means that if they could get these more in line, strikeout rate and walk rate, they would be probably a good bullpen, but you can only correct one of those. One of those is strikeout rate is only correctable by having better stuff, and the Dbacks just aren't going to find better stuff. You can have an attitude difference in how you're going to approach hitters to walk them less, and maybe that leads to more home runs if they had less walks. I don't know. But I'd really like to see something change out there. You brought him up here in the Who's Cold, and I just want to say, what's happened to Ginkel? What's happened to the Gink? His Ks per 9 are down nearly 2 strikeouts per 9 innings so far this season. That is huge. His velocity stayed steady. His home runs per 9 have doubled. I just, man,
Emphasis on the doubles.
his underlying numbers, like most guys in this bullpen, are better than their ERA. The bullpen as a whole, their FIP and xFIP are about a third of a run lower than their actual ERA, but it's still not good. His FIP and xFIP, his predictive stats are still up 1 run from what they were over the last 2 seasons, what it was over the last 2 seasons. And his body language on the mound when he's pitching out there just kind of looks like he's lost his mojo. Remember, we put this guy on
The Swag Mountain.
Yeah, Mount Swagmore. Yeah, we put him on Mount Swagmore, and his swag is gone. I mean, he used to have his WWE antics out on the field, just like belting it and just like, and there's none of that anymore. He seems like a guy who's going through a slump, like a la Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn in Major League 2. I think someone's just got to get this guy some skull and crossbone glasses stat so that he can look nasty out on that mound again. Maybe someone's just, someone ship it. I don't know how you get something to Kevin Ginkel. Someone who's listening to this and has an inside track, give that man a championship belt so that he can carry it out on the field with him and feel like the pro wrestler he is again. So yeah, I don't think nothing in the underlying numbers says this guy needs to be sent down or needs a reworking. He looks like a guy who's lost his confidence in his pitches, and it's real easy for that to happen out of the bullpen. You don't get a lot of opportunities to pitch. You don't pitch many innings. Your ERA can inflate in a hurry. A starter goes out there, he throws 5 innings in a game. As a relief pitcher, it might take you 2 weeks to get to 5 innings, and as a starting pitcher, it takes you 1 game. So you just got to be. You need things to go your way a little bit more often to keep that confidence up, and so I think he'll get it back. Just needs more time. He's already been taken out of high leverage situations, so you don't see him pitching in the 8th inning or 9th inning as much as you did before. He's more a 6th, maybe a little bit in the 7th inning kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And so I think he'll be able to pull that back together. I got faith in the man, but he needs his mojo. So he needs a swag back.
I don't care if you suck. You just need your swag back.
Yeah. Once he gets his swag back, he's going to be awesome again. So, yeah. All right. Go Gink. Bryce Jarvis. We've talked about this a little bit, so I don't want to beat this one into the ground. Bryce Jarvis looks like a guy who needs time at AAA as a relief pitcher to figure out how to pitch as a relief pitcher. Right now, he looks like, he's kind of what you expect from a rookie at this stage in the season, who was not much of a starting pitcher prospect. Bryce Jarvis was never like this guy's a can't miss. Bryce Jarvis was kind of always coming up through the system looked at as a dude who maybe can crack the roster as a 5th starter. Everything breaks right for him. Maybe he's got 4th starter qualities to him, but most likely he's probably a relief pitcher one day. And that's already what happened before he even got a start in the majors. They just decided you don't got what it takes to be a starting pitcher. And so giving him that, just transitioning him right to the bullpen mid-season, the way they essentially did, he's held his own, but he needs to learn how to pitch out of the bullpen. He needs to figure that part out. He needs to refine his 2 best pitches. Just the place to go do that is AAA, not in the majors. I fully expect that in 2025, Jarvis is going to be a very reliable, possibly even 8th inning setup man quality relief pitcher out of the pen. He just needs a full offseason of proper preparation as a reliever, and he probably will come back fantastic. But right now he's kind of a liability out of the bullpen, and so need him. Both Bryce Jarvis and the Dbacks are probably best served by having him go down to Reno for an extended period of time, possibly the rest of the season, to just figure out how to pitch as a relief pitcher. All right, now we want to move on to Matt Bowman. And I know what you're thinking. Matt who? Because
I was not thinking that, but okay.
I'm not even sure why Matt Bowman's still on this roster. He was acquired on May 2nd. The Diamondbacks have played 20 games in that time. Okay? He's pitched in 3 of them. 3 games. He's pitched in 3 games. Even Logan Allen, the long man, who only comes in on like blowouts for the most part, has pitched 4 times since May 2nd. Why is he on the roster? I don't get it. I understand claiming him. Like, I get that. But he's not very good at getting major league hitters out. I kind of imagine that Hazen acquired him off of the waiver wire, essentially. They technically traded for him, but it was just cash. And he pitched in the very first game after he was acquired. So they acquired him on May 2nd. He pitched on May 3rd. And I imagine that like 3 pitches into that first game against San Diego, Torey's response in the dugout was, why did Hazen get me this guy? And he hasn't wanted to pitch him since. No offense, Matt Bowman. I'm sure you're a fantastic person. And you're still one of the best 500 pitchers on planet Earth, probably. Definitely one of the best 1,000 pitchers on planet Earth, which is saying something. But you kind of got to be like one of the best 400 pitchers on planet Earth in order to be a positive to a major league bullpen, and so, or just a major league team in general. And so you're just not cutting it. I don't understand why he's still on the roster. Like I said, Torey has more or less avoided pitching him since that very first game, which I get it. He's not very good at getting major league hitters out. He's going to be 33 at the end of May here, before the end of the month. And there's really not any upside to him. I just don't understand keeping him at all. Just call up almost anybody else from the minors to take his spot and see if they can cut it. Like Bryce Jarvis. I understand Bryce Jarvis hasn't been that good either, but I understand Bryce Jarvis being on the roster and them seeing that he has good stuff and he has the potential in the future to be a good relief pitcher. Peacher. He was a peach. But the Bowman, he's got none of those qualities.
The Bowman.
I just don't. I mean, it's so strange to me that he literally has pitched 3 times in 20 games. And if you take out the fact that he pitched in the first game out of that 20, he's pitched 2 times in the past 19 games. 2 times in the past 19 games. I just don't understand why he is on the roster. It's so weird to me. Especially when the Dbacks are just having to constantly go to their bullpen and they've got guys who are tired and they're not well rested. They just need to put someone in there who is not a complete liability. So Joe Mantiply Mantiply's been okay. He's doing his job. His ERA looks kind of like it's part of the problem with the team bullpen ERA, but the rest of his numbers, all those underlying statistics, he almost never walks anybody. He gets tons of ground balls. He doesn't give up home runs. He doesn't really strike anybody out. But if you're not letting guys put the ball in the seats, if you're not letting hitters put the ball in the seats, and you're not walking guys to give up free bases, you don't really need to strike out that many guys. I mean, if you're basically Clayton Kershaw if you can do all 3 of those things. Prime Clayton Kershaw, but that's not who Mantiply is. Mantiply is a good enough lefty, like late inning lefty, and his ERA is an outlier versus the rest of his season performance, and that usually means that it's probably going to get better. He's a guy kind of like Ryne Nelson. He's kind of getting babbipped to death, and so I expect that to change a little bit. Justin Martinez, Ryan Thompson, Paul Sewald have been absolute stalwarts at the back of this rotation or at the back of that bullpen. If you can at
What'd
least
you say? Star Wars?
stalwarts. It means they've been super reliable
Oh.
at the back of the bullpen. You get to the if you can get to the 8th inning with a lead, and you've got those. Heck, you get to the 7th inning with a lead, and you've got those 3 guys rested. You have a really, really, really good chance of winning that game. Those 3 have just been absolutely terrific. Throw in Logan Allen as the long man. Logan Allen's been really fantastic too as a long man. The issue is just this team doesn't have guys to bridge the 5th and 6th and to a lesser extent 7th innings over to that 3-headed monster that the D-backs have at the back of that bullpen. So the worst part about this entire bullpen issue, though, is just the inaction by the front office to make changes. I mean, I talked about how many games has Matt Bowman pitched in the last 19? 2.
3. 2.
Oh, that's in the last 20. In the last 19, he's pitched twice. Why is he still on the roster? I don't know. You don't know.
Probably Mike Hazen believes in him.
Yeah, he doesn't have good stuff though. That's part of the problem. It's why he got waived by the Twins. He's just so they could drop Jaquez and Bowman. Jaquez has like a 10 ERA and like a 12 FIP in AAA. He looks just absolutely awful there. He may not even be a AAA quality pitcher, frankly. And so you could drop Jaquez. You could drop Bowman. They don't even pitch Bowman. Why is he on the roster? I don't know how many more times I'm going to say that in this show, but I just don't get why he's on the roster still. And so
let's put a counter of how many times he says that right here.
I love that idea. Maybe that's probably what we should call the episode. Why is he still on the roster? And so they could claim Jay Jackson, and for all I know, they might have done that already this afternoon. I believe he will have cleared the waiver claim. Will have been made today or tomorrow. His waiver claim will be stated, and he'll have a new team. Jay Jackson's he's got a good career. He had good K numbers this season. He has an inflated ERA like a lot of other pitchers with small samples, but his underlying statistics is both his expected ERA, his xFIP, and his FIP are all under 4. And so I think he'd be a really good pickup. He got signed for $1.5 million in the offseason. He's only got $1 million left on the contract. That's barely more than a minimum salary pitcher. So I would definitely pick him up if I was Mike Hazen. They've already made, the ownership has already made the statement that the front office they already made the statement that the front office has the green light to go ahead and add more salary during the season. Jay Jackson would be a nice low wattage move from a payroll standpoint to address a need in the bullpen. So I really hope that if Jay Jackson has slipped all the way through the waivers to get to the D-backs, who are right in the middle, they're probably about like 20th or so on that waiver claim list. I hope they get him. That would be awesome. I would be so sad if they passed on Jay Jackson. If someone who has a better record than the D-backs or had a better record when the waiver claim is made than the D-backs ends up with him, that means that the D-backs would have passed, and that I think would be a mistake. And so he would be a great option. And then call up Francisco Morales or Dakota Chalmers. Take your pick. They've kind of been the same pitcher so far this season. They both got strikeouts, Ks per 9, around like 16, 17 strikeouts per 9, which is outrageous. That's so crazy. They're both walking the world. That part's unfortunate. They both have a walk rate of like 6 or 7 walks per 9 inning. And but the K rate is fantastic, and their ERAs are absolutely inflated. I think they're like, one of them's got an ERA of like 6 or 7, and the other one has an ERA of like 12. But as the great Jesse Friedman from PHNX said earlier this week, you can't really take, especially pitcher numbers from Reno, as too much of an indicator of how good a pitcher is, particularly at ERA. You just have such inflated BABIPs. Both those guys, like half of the hits that they give up are half of the balls that get hit in play go for hits. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's never going to happen at the major league level. And the problem that we've talked about in the past with the D-backs and their bullpen is that strand rate, right? They come in with a runner on second and third, and the D-backs don't have any strikeout pitchers that can get them out of that jam without a ball in play, right?
Yeah.
So say you call up Francisco Morales. By the way, he's only 24 years old. He's a pretty young kid at this point still. And say you bring in Francisco Morales in the 5th inning, there's runners on second and third, there's 2 outs, and you're trying to not let anyone score. He's most likely, Francisco Morales is either going to strike out the guy at the plate or he's going to walk them. A walk doesn't hurt you, it just loads the bases. A strikeout gets you out of the inning. The problem when you bring in like a Bryce Jarvis or a Joe Mantiply, or even right now a Kevin Ginkel, is that the ball's probably going to be hit, and that means there's not a decent chance, but there's a chance that they score. You can't score if you can't hit the ball against a guy like Morales or Chalmers. So the D-backs just need that strikeout presence out there, even if it's first and third in that situation, and you walk a guy. It's not a big deal. You got bases loaded. You're not in any worse situation than you were before, and you got a guy who can, I'm guessing, I don't know this, Morales and Chalmers' strikeout rates probably still translate to the majors at like a 10 or a 12 strikeout per 9 clip. And so, especially coming from Reno to Arizona, that's a much better environment to pitch in, to get your movement profile looking better. So I hope that they call up one of those guys. I know I've been talking about this for it's got to be 3 weeks now, pretty much since May 1st. I've been saying call up Chalmers, and now I'm on the Morales bandwagon as well. Morales has looked great, and he's younger, so if you want to go with that instead, Hazen and Lovello, do it. But those guys would be great to have. And D-backs need Ks. They need Ks. Because outside of Mantiply and to a lesser extent Ginkel, the underlying numbers for this bullpen as a whole don't really point to a turnaround coming without making changes. Jarvis doesn't look like he's going to turn anything around with what he's doing right now. He needs a reset. Matt Bowman is just kind of a lost cause. Just cut bait. Jaquez is in AAA. He hasn't had a chance yet, but I don't know why he's still on the 40-man when you could call up somebody who's more effective. And so I'd really, really like to see them just make that call. I would have done it 2 weeks ago if I was in charge of this team. And I'm not saying that Morales or Chalmers are going to be good. They might be absolute train wrecks. They might be worse than Matt Bowman. They could be. I don't know.
Wow.
But that's the thing. I don't know. I'd at least want to give them a shot to find out. And maybe there's something there. So the starting rotation, for the most part, they're holding it together. I'm still in on Ryne Nelson. He pitched 5 innings of scoreless ball against the Dodgers last night, like I mentioned earlier.
Awesome.
His ERA is inflated like a hot air balloon by an almost impossibly high BABIP. He's still got a BABIP that's like 428 or something like that against him, which is outrageous. You don't ever see something like that. That is just the most unlucky balls, like contact rate against you. The StatCast metrics do show that his batted ball data, that he is more hittable than he should be. The guys do make better square the ball up at a fairly decent rate, but nowhere near as badly as his ERA would indicate. Slade, who we got mentioned, got sent down.
Yep.
Yesterday. He's kind of at the other end of the spectrum. The StatCast data says he's incredibly difficult to barrel up, but his FIP and XFIP are pretty high, and of course his ERA is high. Under the surface, Ryne still looks like the better pitcher here. Seems like the team agrees with that assessment that Ryne looks like the better pitcher at this point, and you only prefer to carry one of those guys on your team for any extended period of time, and they've been having to carry two, but not for the next week or so. They sent down Slade as the D-backs due to upcoming off days. They don't need a fifth starter again until May 2nd, and so they can skip the fifth starter one time through the rotation, and then they can make a decision come May 1st about who they want to call up to start on May 2nd. We might see Christian Mena, who they picked up in the Dominic Fletcher trade during the offseason or during spring training. He's been pitching absolutely fantastic in Reno so far, just terrific, and looks like he could be a legitimately good, like number 3 starter in the majors. Like I am very impressed. If Mike Hazen pulled off another trade for another superfluous outfielder. Superfluous. It means kind of unnecessary, just kind of extra. He was just redundant on the roster. That so and not necessarily like an outstanding player. If Hazen traded him away to pick up a potential number 3 starting pitcher, that's an insane trade. That's such an insane trade. Monty has been kind of ugly. His velo, I was looking into this. His velo is down 1.5 miles per hour from a year ago.
Oh, really?
That's not good. That's really, really bad. Like, that's concerning. That's concerningly bad. That he's had a massive drop in his strikeout rate.
Yeah.
Massive. He needs. I mean, if he doesn't pick his velocity back up, we basically signed a really expensive 3/4 pitcher. We basically signed a really expensive version of Ryne Nelson, and so I don't like that much.
No.
So Monty's got to get that. I mean, it's been 4-5 starts, I think now, 5 starts in the majors. He's got to be getting that velocity back up. Like, he needs to do it for himself if he wants to have another payday here after this season. If he wants to get that big long contract that he's looking for, even just a moderately long contract, if he wants to secure 3, 4, 5 seasons after this, he's gonna have to get that velocity back up to where he's been for the last half dozen seasons of Major League Ball. He has not thrown this slow his entire career. It's concerning, very concerning. And then Gallen and Fott both just look to be down ballot Cy Young pitchers. Nothing I said about Brandon Fott. I mean, remember when we were talking like back on April 12th, how I made the statement Brandon Fott may already be the best pitcher on this pitching staff?
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. He's done nothing to dissuade me of that thought. He really might be, and that's saying something. Gallen was 3rd in the Cy Young vote, last season, and Brandon Fott may already be better than him. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
He has been so incredibly good, and so he's just a joy to watch. Brandon Fott, he pounds the strike zone. He pounds the strike zone. He rarely ever walks guys. He does give up some home runs. That's the weakness of almost every young pitcher in Major League Baseball. Despite not throwing that hard, gets plenty of strikeouts, just like Gallen does. He is just so much fun to watch, and he works fast. He works very fast. I enjoy that so much. He's probably my favorite pitcher to sit and watch, favorite starting pitcher to sit and watch pitch because of just all of the factors combined. I don't know that he's not necessarily better than Gallen. It's a little bit of hyperbole saying that he might be the best pitcher on this pitching staff already, but he's not that far off, and that part's amazing. The offense versus lefties, they're still one of the best in baseball, even after facing Tarek Skubal. They're still, I mean, this has fluctuated a little bit over the past week. They haven't really faced a whole lot of lefties, but they're still, even with that Tarek Skubal game where they got shut out, they still were, after that game, I didn't go back and look since, but after that game, on the Saturday after that game, I went to go see if they were still number one against lefties in Major League Baseball, and they still were number one in lefties in Major League Baseball by OPS. And so, yeah, I don't know if they are today, but even if not, they're still one of the best, like one of the number 1, 2, or 3 at smashing lefties. And no shame in that, getting shut out by Tarek Skubal. I'm pretty sure he's the odds-on favorite to win the AL Cy Young at this point in the season. So that happens to a lot of teams. Versus right-handed pitchers, still looks like a problem. Carroll finally started to turn it around, like I said, over the last 5 games. His batting average, he's got a 5-game hitting streak going. He's only hitting, I think, 217 over those 5 games, so still not good. He's getting basically 1 hit a game, but he's at least getting 1 hit a game.
Yeah.
It's a big improvement for him. That's sad saying it, but that's a big improvement for him. He still looks like a 9-hitter. He probably shouldn't be batting any higher than like 6th in this lineup right now. I would rather, up until the last 5 games, and his swing just looking a little bit better, I was beginning to think the trip to Reno, once Thomas returns, really might be necessary, but only if he keeps up that poor performance. If he turns back into a pumpkin here again over the next week, 2 weeks while Thomas is getting ready. The swing still does look flat, just not as flat as it was, and frankly, right now, if you're comparing Jake McCarthy to Corbin Carroll, who would you rather have in your starting lineup for tomorrow's game? If I could only take one of them, I'd probably go in Jake McCarthy, and that sucks.
Wow.
It's for the rest of the season. Don't get me wrong. For the rest of the season, absolutely Corbin Carroll. I'd rather have Corbin Carroll on my team, but just because of the where those 2 players are right now in their swings, and Jake's still a really good outfielder. You're not losing a lot by going from McCarthy to Jake. I'd rather have Jake, and so that said, if he can pull out of it here before Thomas returns, then just keep him in that lineup, because if he can pull out of it, he is arguably one of the 5 most valuable offensive players in Major League Baseball, non-pitchers anyway. So Eugenio Suarez, let's cap it with the Eugenio Suarez talk.
Gino.
Yeah, Gino, or I guess Eugenio. I keep calling him Eugenio. It's because of the Gino.
Yeah, Eugenio.
Eugenio.
Eugenitals.
Oh, don't give us that, Raiden. What are you thinking?
Sorry.
I'm just teasing. That's funny.
It kind of just slipped out there.
So he's definitely down versus expectations. We talked about his swing already earlier in the show. It's a little concerning, but he's still been serviceable. Like, you look at his numbers on Fangraphs, for example, he's still got a positive WAR. He's playing decent defense, like good enough defense, and he's hitting well enough. Like, his numbers are down this season, but the whole league is so down. Like, Major League Baseball's offense this season has absolutely cratered. Pitching is just taking over. And so his numbers without context for where the rest of the league is look terrible. With context, they merely look not good. They look somewhere. He looks like a below average hitter, but not a terrible hitter. And so here's the other part. I was looking into this. He has dramatic, and I mean dramatic splits between his first half and his second half. Like literally, it's just something clicks on July 1st in his season. Almost every single year, he's got like almost a 50-point. He's got like a 45-point difference in OPS from the first half to the second half. He's such a better hitter over his career in the second half. So there's still hope for him to turn this around. If he can just become just a league average hitter, basically, he's going to be plenty valuable at third base. And so hopefully that's coming in July. And in the meantime, before you send Blaze down when Perdomo comes back, you got a couple of weeks. I'd give Blaze more starts there at third base. If Suarez really isn't going to turn this around till July 1st, like his career MO says he's not going to, you might as well just take this opportunity to give Blaze some starts at third, see how he looks at third base. Yeah. I've made the statement, I think he might be the third baseman of 2025 for the D-backs.
Yeah.
They have that kid. If you recall, we were talking in the preseason when we looked at some of the players that they acquired. We talked about Andres Chaparro. They picked him up from the Yankees, and he's a 24-year-old Cuban defector third baseman. I believe he's a Cuban defector, and he's absolutely crushing the ball at Reno and playing, by all accounts, a good third base. And so Blaze might have some competition at third base, but if Eugenio, if we come up on, we're starting to look at August 1st and Suarez hasn't turned his season around like he's always looked like he does, it's probably time to either give Blaze or Chaparro a shot at being the third baseman for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
you can't have Suarez is on the last year of his contract. You don't want to get rid of the guy. But if he's still playing as poorly as he is right now, as below average, you probably want to give somebody else a shot there and see if they can establish themselves to be of help come October when you're in the playoffs. So that's really it. Phoenix, what are you looking for? What's something that you're excited about here in the next week and change ahead until we get our next podcast in? Hopefully we can catch some games while we're soaking up sun in Cabo.
Well, for more of, not next week, for more of a longer period of time, I'm excited for when Alec Thomas comes back, because I think he can turn this team around, or at least try. He
can help on defense.
Yeah, he can help help with them, maybe win them more games. But I'm excited for when he comes back. He
is arguably the most exciting player on the D-backs roster. Yeah, I mean, when Carroll's going well, he's fantastic to watch. But I really. I'm a sucker for outfield defense. It's what I've done my entire life. It's the part of my game that I've always taken the most pride in and worked the hardest on. And I love watching other guys who play amazing defense. And so watching Alec Thomas play defense is so much fun. Yeah. So I'm looking, I'm mainly wanting to see what happens with Monty's velocity here. If he can get that back to what it's been for his career, because without that, that's going to be very, very concerning. And he is not a playoff caliber starter without that velocity bump. I was kind of looking forward to Slade's change in approach the second time through the order, but we may never get to see that. Yeah. He did it the one time, and his first time through the order went fine, and then it was the second time through the order that gave him trouble. And so he just kind of kept on doing what he's always been doing. I don't get it. I think he he might have just earned himself a trip to the bullpen, which that wouldn't be a bad thing because the D-backs need help in the bullpen, as we've discussed. And
very much.
And along those lines, I'm wanting to see some changes to the bullpen. Slade might be the answer. Maybe just picking up Jay Jackson and calling Slade back up to pitch out of the bullpen is the answer. Maybe it's Francisco Morales. Maybe it's a different waiver claim. Maybe it's Dakota Chalmers. I don't know what it is at this point, but I'm hoping that the D-backs make some adjustments because Bryce Jarvis and Matt Bowman are just not cutting it. And I don't think they're going to for the rest of 2024. Again, Jarvis, I think, going to be really solid in 2025, but out of the bullpen. But I think I've seen enough for the time being of Bryce Jarvis to know that this isn't his time.
Yeah.
Out of that pen. So,
all right. Good. This has been a really long one. An hour and 10 minutes we're at, but this will probably be shorter in long term, maybe.
No.
Okay. No.
Thanks for listening all the way to the end. If you're still hearing us ramble on, please
like,
comment,
subscribe,
and tell your inner kindergartner,
and share.
That's right. You look like you were challenging them.
Share.
Bring on the shares. And
I share more podcasts with you.
That's right. All right. And let's send it out on a good Nerd on the D-backs outro. Ready? Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Nerdy.
Oh, I screwed that up. Let's start it over. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Nerding.
Da-da-da-da-da.
On the
da-da-da-da-da.
Dbacks.
Woo! Peace.
Elementary school graduate.